Do you struggle with content? Of course you do. Why? Because showing up in a public environment where people get the opportunity to like us or not like us or judge us, it is hard. And so I want to give you 5 tips. 5 tips to making better content. But first, let's talk about why we struggle. For many of us, we're putting Band-Aids on bullet holes and we're providing tips without actually addressing the root of the problem. Therefore, there's really no amount of tips that are going to help you get better. Why do we struggle? I think the number one reason we struggle is because of ego. It's because of ego. Many of us, we aren't truly confident. We mask it and we convince people that we are, but because we're not truly confident, our ego has all these desires. And so we need that ego stroked. We need that ego affirmed. It's an easy way to show up on social and want to be validated. What I watch and see is the problem, the layer that you work all of your content ideas through, it is overcome by your ego. A lot of the really good content ideas you won't do. Why? Because they're not going to go viral. They're not going to get enough likes. They're not going to get shared by everybody because it's not going to be the sexy content, but it's important content. And so you have to ask yourself, am I letting my ego sit in the driver's seat of my social media? Am I just creating content because I want to go viral? I want to do trending things. I want more and more and more likes. Or are you able to kind of brush your ego aside and say, what do my people need? And so this is what's holding a lot of you back. If you're not being held back by this, you're probably being held back by what I call nobody cares syndrome. We assume nobody cares. Who cares about what I think? Who cares about my opinion? People aren't out there looking for me. And the reality is, you're probably right. The world is not out there looking for you, but your people are. And in my world of mortgage and real estate, it doesn't take a ton of transactions for you to be really successful. You've got to let this go. You don't need to go create content that only works for strangers. You need to create content that serves your community, your people, and watch success begin to happen. If we get a grip on that we're either being controlled by our ego or we're being pulled down by assuming nobody cares, that gets pushed out of the way. Now we can actually look at our content and choose to get better. And so let me give you 5 things that you can do to better your content. The first, we've heard this before, but it's know your audience. Do you know your audience? Or do you just know a general idea of who your audience might be? But because you don't want to leave anybody out, you end up creating a ton of content that is very vanilla and it's not popping to anybody. It's not eye-catching to anybody. It's not hitting anybody in the feels because you're trying to be everything to everyone. And so you've got to truly discover, who is my audience? How old are they? Where do they live? Because now as I develop these things, I can begin to figure out what are their passions and also what are their pain points. All of the answers to these questions help us create content that attracts who we're looking for. And so we have to know our audience better if we want our content to get better. Number 2 is you just need to pay better attention. In the world of sales, we kind of become question answerers all the time. That's what we do in our jobs. We sit across the table, we jump on Zoom, and people pepper us with questions. Here's what's fascinating to me though. It is not common for us to take those questions and realize I'm sitting across the table from my ideal client. They're asking me these questions. I want more people like them. Why am I not naturally taking the questions that they're asking me and turning them into content? Well, I've never thought about it like that before. That is what we should be doing. If we were actively listening, we would naturally have more things to talk about. But if that doesn't do it for you, the third of the 5 ways to better content is to operate from 2 questions. The first question is this: what do I get asked the most about blank? And make a list the same way that I've got a list in front of me with my notes. Always be making a list. What do I get asked the most? And just start writing. Start writing good questions, bad questions, long-winded questions, short-winded questions, old questions, new questions. Because if somebody's asked it, somebody else is wondering it. And so what do I get asked the most about blank? Fill in the blank with your industry. Question number 2 is, what am I surprised that people don't already know? What am I surprised that people don't already know? Because again, we all sit in conversation with people and we say something to them and they go, wait, what was that again? I know I should know what that means, but can you remind me what that is? That should always trigger a siren, an alarm, a bell in our heads that says, hey, they didn't know what that meant. They don't have clarity on what you assumed they knew. You need to go make a video about that. And guys, if we will operate inside of those 2 questions, we will never run out of content for social media. Here's the problem before we get to number 4. If you're driven by ego, you won't do it because the answers to these questions are not sexy, they're not cool, they're not trendy, they're applicable to your ideal client, which maybe isn't a giant group of people. And so we've got to be super intentional here. Number 4 for better content is watch your posture. I do a lot of coaching inside a video, and so I watch a lot of people get real weird with posture. And posture can be not positioning the camera the right way, and so people are looking down like this, or they're not looking down and we get that booger view, or some people will kind of lean back when they talk instead of lean in, which provides a posture that talks about leadership and confidence. We don't know what to do with our hands, but this is so important to your ability to get people to pay attention. And so you need to be more aware of your posture. I'm a big fan of 2 camera angles for best posture. One is when the camera angle, just like it is right now, is slightly below my eye level if I were looking straight. So this is me looking straight. And so just a small turn down, it puts me in a position of authority. And so I love this angle. But when I'm shooting with my phone, I like to hold my phone just a little bit above my eyes so that it causes me to look up ever so slightly. We're not talking club angle, just an ever so slight increase, and it changes our posture, guys, and it allows people to be more bought into the believability of what we're doing when we posture ourselves correctly. The final tip is this: you've got to be aware of your tone. I watch so much content where people get so monotone because when we're nervous, we tend to do that. When we're not sure what to say, we tend to do that. And then we also don't understand the distance that video creates. And so I don't know who of you have ever spoke on a stage, but when you speak on a stage, you have to project louder than if you were just simply having coffee with somebody. If you and I were at coffee right now, I would talk like this. We would have a normal conversation. It would be perfectly fine. But when I talk like this on video, it comes across as very passive. It comes across as if I may not know what I'm talking about. It's going to be hard for people to believe what I'm saying when I simply talk normal. How do we fix this? You simply have to get louder. When you're creating content, you gotta be a little bit louder. You gotta get a little bit more excited. And then I want you to practice changing your tone. I want you to get loud at times when it's appropriate. I also want you to learn how you can get in close and really drive a point home because you lean in posture and you lower your voice volume. And now people are paying attention. So these are 5 tips to help you get better at your content. If you've got questions about it, let me know. It'd be an honor to serve you. See ya.